Listen carefully. The crackling sound you hear is the burning of dried cloves mixed with tobacco. This sound is so distinctive that it gave the product its very name, Kretek. In Indonesia, the fourth most populous country in the world, Kretek is not merely a cigarette. Kretek is an empire. Indonesia is the second largest cigarette market on Earth, where its citizens smoke more than 300 billion cigarettes each year. Yet this colossal consumption carries a deadly toll. An estimated 290,000 lives are lost annually due to tobacco-related diseases. How can a product that kills its own consumers maintain such a powerful grip on a nation? The answer lies in global business genius, disguised as local culture. Welcome to the channel. Today, we will delve deeper into a brilliant yet deeply unsettling book, Kretek Capitalism, Making, Marketing, and Consuming Clove Cigarettes in Indonesia, by anthropologist Marina Welker. We will dissect how one of the deadliest industries in the world mobilizes millions of people to work in its interest, weaving an illusion so powerful that it convinces a nation to proudly consume its own destruction. The story of Kretek begins in the late 19th century in Kudus, central Java. According to legend, Haji Jamhari mixed cloves into his tobacco to relieve his asthma. From this cottage industry emerged major entrepreneurs. One of them was Lim Sing Ti, an orphaned Chinese immigrant who in 1913 founded the forerunner of the Kretek giant, Sampurna. Through a blend of tobacco, cloves, and flavoring sauce under the brand G Samso, Sampurna grew into a business empire in Indonesia. However, the greatest irony of Kretek nationalism occurred in 2005. While pro-Kretek groups accused health regulations of being a foreign threat and neo-colonialism, at the same time, Sampurna was acquired by the American global tobacco giant Philip Morris International for $5 billion. Foreign companies now dominate a market that claims to protect local commodities. So how does this multinational giant control the lifeblood of Kretek from upstream to downstream? Let us go to the tobacco fields. The story of Kretek is also often introduced through romanticized, nostalgic myths. Industry supporters and Kretek nationalists celebrate clove cigarettes as a noble indigenous cultural heritage, painting a beautiful picture of independent and prosperous farmers. However, in reality, 70% of tobacco farming households in Indonesia live in poverty, and conditions in the fields tell a story of hierarchy, vulnerability, and subjugation. The industry uses a highly hierarchical contract farming system. Supplier companies assign field technicians to regulate everything: which seeds are planted, when to harvest, and which fertilizers are permitted. Farmers are evaluated under a strict grading system. When crops fail due to extreme weather or volcanic eruptions, farmers and laborers bear the greatest losses, often becoming trapped in life-destroying debt. The most vulnerable in this chain are tobacco farm laborers, the majority of whom are women and the elderly. They work for wages far below standard rates, face the risk of green tobacco sickness, which is a nicotine poisoning caused by skin contact with wet tobacco leaves, and are also exposed to toxic chemicals such as the pesticide Tamex. Ironically, instead of empowering them, this system perpetuates suffering at the grassroots level. Strangely, in a clever corporate maneuver, when the government attempts to raise taxes or regulate public health, the tobacco industry mobilizes these very same farmers to take to the streets. They are given financial incentives or pressured by tobacco leaf buyers to demonstrate, effectively creating the illusion of a grassroots movement resisting foreign interference, when in reality, they are protecting multinational corporate profits. From the fields, tobacco and cloves moved to the factories. For decades, the public face of the Kretek industry was the women handrollers of cigarette Kretek Tangan, celebrated by Kretek nationalists as working-class heroines who faithfully preserve the culture and sacrifice for their families. But the reality on the factory floor is very different. These rollers are piece-rate workers, constantly chased by production quotas. They must roll 300 to 600 cigarettes per hour. Imagine the physical strain. Their hands move so quickly that many workers' heads sway unconsciously to maintain the rhythm of this extreme labor. The fingers of cigarette cutters often become bent or injured after decades of holding scissors. Sampoorna calls this women's empowerment. But in truth, it is a paternalistic system that wraps exploitation and quota pressure in rhetoric of empathy and kinship. Yet today, hand-rolled Kretek is gradually fading. Currently, around 75% of the market consists of machine-made Kretek cigarettes. Inside these highly automated facilities, human labor is managed through a system of gamification. Workers are given key performance indicator targets, appreciation points, and interdepartmental competitions. This makes employees feel as though they are playing a game of productivity and self-development, when the primary goal of the system is to accelerate production for capitalist profit. Equally important is the corporation's strategy of shifting the burden of safety and efficiency entirely onto the shoulders of individual workers. So how do you continue selling a deadly product in an era of increasingly strict advertising restrictions? The answer? You do not merely sell cigarettes. You produce coolness. And the industry subtly employs young people. Sampoorna's flagship brand, A-Mild, successfully cracked this code by targeting the middle class and youth. The company positioned itself as cool, creative, progressive, and anti-establishment institution. Recognizing the power of the gig economy, the tobacco industry sponsors indie music concerts, art exhibitions, and do-it-yourself lifestyles. Under the guise of creative competitions or artistic appreciation, they recruit musicians, influencers, event organizers, and university students. These young creators are appointed as brand producers and ambassadors. They are lowly paid, or sometimes only given merchandise rewards and VIP access, to seamlessly integrate cigarette brands into their art, their music festivals, and their Instagram posts. This is a brilliant and cunning strategy by the cigarette industry to generate publicity and exploit the social networks of youth without violating direct advertising bans. This infiltration extends to the streets around us. Cigarette sellers and marketers conduct meticulous relationship work with millions of independent waroom owners or traditional shopkeepers. Through reward programs such as Sampoorna Retail Community, the company persuades these small shop owners to paint their stores in brand colors and display cigarettes in the most prominent locations. They transform everyday community spaces into an unavoidable infrastructure of massive cigarette circulation. Ultimately, the burden of Kretek capitalism falls upon the consumer. In Indonesia, smoking is closely linked to class, labor, and gender. 2/3 of Indonesian men smoke, treating cigarettes as a means of male bonding, a boredom killer while waiting, or an appetite suppressant for the proletariat. But here lies the tobacco industry's greatest deception: the privatization of guilt. Although they have engineered a highly addictive product with hidden chemical additives such as ammonia, combustion enhancers, and synthetic filters designed to deceive the lungs, the industry has successfully convinced the public that smoking is purely a matter of personal choice. When chronic disease strikes, smokers rarely blame multinational corporations or the government that profits from taxes. Instead, they blame themselves. Many even defend the industry, believing their addiction is a patriotic duty that provides jobs and builds the national economy. Tragically, they become commodity patriots, sacrificing their own lives and lungs for global corporate profit margins. The book Kretek Capitalism reveals a profound and deeply unsettling intellectual insight. Capitalism is at its strongest when it successfully disguises itself as culture. Clove cigarettes are not merely rolls of tobacco and spices. They are masterpieces of social engineering. From farmers in the fields to factory workers chasing quotas, from indie artists chasing stages to shop owners chasing bonuses, this industry weaves a web of dependency that ensnares millions. It extracts their labor, their creativity, their money, and ultimately, their breath, all while convincing them that they are participating in a revered national tradition. Exposing the illusions surrounding Kretek is not an act of betraying the nation's cultural heritage. On the contrary, Fully understanding the exploitative reality of Kretek capitalism and having the courage to confront its true face is the only way we can begin to change it. And to improve the future of public health, we must first recognize the invisible architecture of exploitation that surrounds us. We must learn to see through the smoke. Want to know more? Download the book that inspired this video through the link in the description section. And do not forget to subscribe to this channel so you do not miss the next video.